WrestleTalk.
AEW is dead. It's finished. I think we can all agree that it's jumped the shark, it's hot-shotted, it's over, unfortunately, but it was good while it lasted. I am, of course, being facetious. I'm playing up that image you'll believe me to think, when really, I love AEW. Let's review this show where Jeff Hardy debuted. I'm Ollie Davis, and I'm joined by your new Real Jams champion, Luke Owen, DAD, complete with accessory title belt.
Indeed, yeah. Some people would call this the interim title. Those people are wrong. This is the real Jam That Champion. I'm very pleased to have this back on my shoulder one more time. Be opening up the Forbidden Board at WrestleMania, defending this title against Sullivan Bo Brown, if he accepts my challenge, that is.
He's out of the country right now.
Well, that's why he hasn't accepted my challenge yet. That, and he's obviously afraid of me. But yeah, no, Ollie, I feel like I've got to come onto this show because I wasn't there for last week's Dynamite episode when you and Pete came on here live and we said, like, AEW buying Ring of Honor is the worst bit of news that's happened this year.
That was Pete's fault. He's too negative.
And you said that MJF segment with Punk was stupid and dumb. Dude, I watched the show. I heard the pair of you say these exact words.
I like that
And
bit.
then I watched Tempest and Pete talk about Rampage, where they also said, like, it's a stupid, dumb show and I hate it. And then you and I did our live reactions to Revolution, where you were like, this show's too long, this is boring, this is bad, and I don't like this. And then I had to come onto the Revolution show to save our reputation as you and Tempest talked about how this was rubbish, that was stupid. You said at one point, and I believe this is a direct quote, Keith Lee is lost in the shuffle. He's been there for 3 weeks and has had 3 matches. And you're like, nope, this is bad, this is stupid. So I am here to rid this channel of your anti-AEW bias.
Take everything nice back I said about you in the championship. We've got a sponsor today.
We certainly do. Thank you to this episode's sponsor, BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Support WrestleTalk, support yourself. So we take mental health very seriously here on this channel. So please click the link in the video description down below, or the one that's being posted by our wonderful moderating team. That's betterhelp.com/wrestle. Use our promo code WRESTLE for 10% off your first month. It is not a crisis line. It is not self-help. It is professional therapy done securely. Basically, what happens is you'll be assigned a therapist within 48 hours, a licensed one no less, and then you can chat to them in a variety of different ways. And you want to talk over text message, you can do that. Video calls, it's optional for you. You can do it over the phone. There's lots of different ways to do this. BetterHelp wants you to start living a better life today.
This episode of AEW Dynamite,
Which you hated.
we will open with something, yes, I didn't feel was optimum. Let's get away from the H word. I didn't feel was optimum.
Yeah. There's a comment at the start of this stream that I saw that really popped me and made me laugh. That said, it's so funny to see the WrestleTalk podcast audience turn on Ollie like the AEW fans turned on Cody, because that is what has happened now.
Me and Cody, we've always been brothers. If Cody's done with them, I'm with you. I'm with you, Cody. Where are we going next, baby? WrestleMania. Woo.
It's WrestleMania, baby. Woo!
So this was Jeff Hardy's debut in AEW. Reportedly, I think we're thrown off the scent a tad. Jeff Hardy himself had leaked the news that we already kind of all figured out 2 weeks ago.
In fairness, Matt Hardy, since Jeff Hardy was released, I was like, hey, man, Hardy Boys getting back together. Like, every tweet, no one would ask him. He'd be like, hey, man, Hardy Boys getting back together.
The sort of indie bookings they'd had, like the whole Hardy Boys reunion was already in the works outside of AEW. Anyway, I think it was reported that the WWE no-compete clause actually expired on Wednesday/Thursday, so he wouldn't be around this week, maybe next week. Swerve, not Strickland, but an actual swerve, because Jeff Hardy came out here. This was in a of all the, this is my thing here. Jeff Hardy turning up, cool. Like, yes, Hardy Boys together, the Young Bucks feuds, a feud with the Hardy Boys and Darby and Sting, which appears to be what they're setting up first. It'll probably be Team Taz, but,
Well, they're
eventually.
busy. They're busy at the moment, feuding with Keith Lee.
The
and
Nightmare
Hook.
Factory, then.
Well, they're feuding with. Oh no, Hook's part of Team Taz. They're feuding with the Nightmare Factory as well.
Also,
so like,
yeah.
yeah. So those they're busy at the moment.
Sure. 2.0. No, they're
busy.
So it's in this story of Andrade's sort of slow insertion into the Hardy family office. The Hardy family office.
The business that Matt Hardy started in AEW.
So out of nowhere, they're all of a sudden in the ring together.
Out of nowhere, they did announce it was happening.
They did announce it was happening, but Matt starts the promo with, "You're trying to get me fired." I was like, really? Because just last week it was all pretty normal and you wrestled the match at the pay-per-view.
There's probably some stuff on Twitter.
Well then, no.
I also wonder if this segment was rushed because a certain William Regal probably went overtime with his promo.
Hey, I think if everything stuck to time, there was still way too much in the second hour of this show. So you have a sort of vote of no confidence thing. Only people who had shares in this fictional entity could vote, which didn't include Butcher and Blade.
It did not.
But Butcher and Blade were out there. But the Bunny and Penelope Ford weren't there. Neither were Hybrid 2. These are all pre-existing members, but they just weren't a part of it.
Did you say the Bunny and
Penelope Ford?
She part of the family?
She definitely joined at one point.
Did she?
She was tagging with the Bunny.
Yeah,
They're all in.
No, she's just tagging with the Bunny. She's not part of their faction.
3 of the 4 people weren't there then.
This is like when I was watching this with Pete, and he was like, "Well, that doesn't make sense." And I'm like, "Well, no, they explained that on television a few weeks ago." And he went, "Well, what about that?" And I'm like, "Well, they explained that on television as well."
Well, I will give you this. Andrade's like, "Let's all do a thumbs up, thumbs down vote." And Matt Hardy's like, "My boys aren't going to vote against me. See, Private Party put their thumbs up. Matt Hardy turns his back, and Batista style, down goes the thumbs." And you've got this wonderful, what do they call it? Dramatic irony of Matt Hardy there looking at Andrade, being like, "They're not going to betray me." And you just see the thumbs up. That was very well done. Then everyone beat up Matt Hardy. Sting and Darby came out to help, not beat up Matt Hardy, but to save Matt Hardy. I don't know why. And then Jeff...
because they're feuding with the Andrade and Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
So they came down to attack Andrade.
Why would this not be the greatest thing in the world for Darby and Sting? The people they're feuding against have self-combusted.
Because they're still angry at Andrade.
But they're also still angry at Matt.
Yeah, but they're now seeing that Matt has been turned on and is being ganged up on, and they are like the vigilantes of AEW who are constantly running down to save people. Owen, you're looking at me saying like, "Man, it's weird to see Darby Allin and Sting run down to make the save for people," because that's happened a lot.
No, yeah, I agree with that. To make the save for Matt Hardy, the guy they just wrestled at the pay-per-view.
They just saw injustice. And they're coming down to right the wrongs of the injustice.
Matt Hardy has been a thorn in their side injustice-wise for the last couple of months.
Yeah. And then they saw him get screwed over and they came down to make the save.
Agree to disagree. Why didn't Jeff come out first? Because the next thing to happen is Jeff Hardy comes down to make the save.
Because it's a way to swerve the crowd. The crowd started chanting for Jeff to come down. So they brought out Darby and Sting. Makes the crowd think, "Oh, okay, Jeff isn't here then." And then Jeff comes down to make the save, and he gets a bigger pop that way.
Okay, well, again, agree to disagree. One thing I haven't seen a difference... The only...
Ollie seems to be ignoring all of the stories.
The one thing that people are defending... Well, they're not. The only defense I've seen of it is, that's funny, is when Jeff Hardy made the save for his brother, but stopped... to do the...
Got to maximize your minutes.
The entrance arms.
Yeah. But it was great.
Jeff Hardy made the save. He hugged Matt and he had a sort of cool interaction with Sting because, of course, Victory Road back in the day, that was actually very nice. And Darby also stared at Jeff. So you've got multiple matches to happen there. Probably a Jeff, Darby singles and the tag between them all.
You do an 8-man tag of the Hardy, Sting and Darby versus Butcher and Blade and Private Party, or maybe throw Andrade in there.
Sure. Yeah, so look...
Yeah, I mean, I hate wrestling matches too, so makes sense to be down on it.
Jeff Hardy in AEW makes sense. I'm not a Jeff Hardy guy, so maybe like what the elation everyone else is feeling is more tied to a nostalgia love for Hardy. I don't have that as much. I just see a lower mid-card story that I wasn't into anyway as the weird, convoluted setup to Jeff Hardy making his return. Of all the ways to bring back Jeff, this was not the way I would have done it.
Well, that is absolutely fair enough to say that it is not how I would have done it, because you know what? It's not how I would have done it either. However, this is a storyline they've been telling for some time now, and they have been quite clearly signposting where this storyline is going, and it came to a natural, satisfying point. And now the story can continue on. This isn't a conclusion, it is just the next chapter of this story. So I'm not sitting here being like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why did that happen? This is stupid. They're just rewriting this on the fly. This has been quite clearly panned and mapped out, and I'm totally fine with that. It's consistent storytelling.
It is a consistent, relatively long-term story.
Yeah, and it's a lower mid-card story.
I agree. I can't fault it for that. I think it's a bad story.
Well, that's absolutely fine. It's not a story I'm like hugely into. I've been enjoying. This is the most I've enjoyed Andrade on in AEW though, because I like this sort of like you know, the Mr. Sting stuff, like how you know, like all this sort of stuff. I think it's the most fun Andrade seems to be having since he came into the company. I'd much rather this than the revolving door manager system that he had previous to this.
Now it's Chavo. Now it's Jose.
Exactly, yeah. Much rather that. So like, so I'm into it from a certain aspect. It helped that I've only just started watching Succession. So like, when they started doing the vote of no confidence thing, I was like, oh cool. Matt Hardy watched Succession and was like, I'm gonna do that in AEW. Yeah. So it's absolutely fine. And the pop that Jeff got when he came out, the fact that no one seemed to know, I didn't know this either, that the Hardy Boys music was not a WWE theme.
That's an important point, yeah.
And Sean Ross Sapp reported on Fightful Select that, yeah, like WWE don't own that music. It was a piece of music they bought from a library. And I was like, oh yeah, because there have been times when Hardcore Holly's theme has been in movies. Like it was in Dodgeball. I think it was and it is Dodgeball. Like when one of the teams is walking down and Hardcore Holly's music plays. I remember being a teenager being like, it's weird. I've heard podcasts. It was the Attitude Era podcast that said that Cactus Jack's theme was licensed music that apparently has appeared in porno films.
Nice. Wouldn't know.
So I love the fact they came out to the Hardy Boys theme. I'm a 36-year-old man. So the Hardy Boys have been my team. They were my team when I was a teenager, being like, I love these boys. They look like me. Playing SmackDown 1, everyone's outfit that they picked was the Hardy Boys outfit, just with probably a different head. Or maybe if you wanted long hair, you would just make yourself look like the Hardy Boys. So I am stoked to see Jeff Hardy in AEW. Hardy Boys versus the Young Bucks. Hardy Boys versus the Acclaimed versus Top Flight versus Private Party. There's a lot of stuff here that can spin out that I'm really, really excited for. And unlike you, I don't hate this product. So I'm quite happy that it's here.
Should we see what let's watch Ollie get murdered, shall we? WrestleTalk.com/support. Get all your Omegachats in. We'll answer every single one of them over $5. Because there's only one thing I hate more in this world than AEW, and that's Canadian currencies. US dollars.
Our moderating team, we now have an Ollie hates AEW section in the Ultra Chats. We've officially entered the Ollie zone, to quote Daniel Bryan. Oh no, our chat could be quite fickle sometimes, but I think that's more Ollie can be quite fickle sometimes.
Ollie can be freaking consistent with how he rates the wrestling shows he reviews. Anyway, Jacob Smith says, I legit screamed for Jeff, Sting and Darby's run-in threw me off the scent. As much as I enjoyed all the faction and feud resetting, perfect for manifesting trios titles, the show did so at the cost of the consistency we've had over the last few weeks.
I just disagree. Like, also, this was a reset episode. We have done a bunch load of stories, and now we are ending some of them, but slightly tweaking some of them, and now we're going into the new era. Like, it's a new season start.
Matthew McFadden. As soon as Jeff Hardy came on my screen, so did I. Mitchell Johnson. I guess it's just because of the era that I grew up in, but God, I love Jeff Hardy. I'm curious who you all think or want Jeff to work with as a singles competitor. As a tag team, endless possibilities. As a single, though, I don't really know who I want.
Darby.
Yeah, Darby would be the first shout. There is an unresolved issue with CM Punk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wouldn't do that right out the gate because that would be weird. But anyone else?
The Hardys versus Moxley and Danielson sounds fun. But yeah, no, as a singles guy, Punk I mean, Kenny Omega has matches that we haven't seen before. Like, that's the sort of thing I'm looking at for Jeff. Matches I haven't seen out of him. So, like, Jeff versus Hangman looks like it'd be a fun one.
My God. I didn't really... Yeah, because I'm not a Jeff Hardy guy, but I cannot deny he has a ratings draw to him. And a pay-per-view main event, Kenny Omega versus Jeff Hardy. I could see that doing very, very well. Rosa, Hardy Boys theme and all is surreal. Put them versus the Bucks on Supercard of Honor. Oh, that's a nice touch. Run it back. Ollie, what would you have rather? A ton of rematches and the same thing over and over, or fresh starts and stories? Don't get me wrong, this show had too much on it. What would I rather? Well, I wouldn't want either of those options. So all the stuff that happened in this episode, I would just take half of it and spread it out over the next 3 weeks. And then probably, look, if we're taking it from this point right now, I would have Matt Hardy leave the AHFO in some way, tell another story, and then have Jeff come back as part of that story when it's a lot more higher profile.
Fair.
Jeff Griffin. Hope the Hardys get a good last run. Hardys versus Young Bucks, Red Dragon, FTR. Oh my God, the matches we hopefully get. Plus Jeff versus Darby. Yes, please.
Trent in there says Jeff versus Darby, falls count anywhere. All the car crash spots, all the destroyed furniture, all the dives off the balcony.
Book it, Tony.
Book it, Tony.
And Painted Viper. I honestly think Jeff's debut was lacking. They could have done much more than just a save.
So, your storyline would have been to stop the storyline they were doing,
wrap up the storyline, which they were doing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have had Jeff come out for it.
Yeah, and you would have just had Matt just bring out Jeff.
Not even that. Just, I don't know, book a new story, which has Jeff more factored into the end point of it.
Here is actually my bigger concern I have, more than anything around this segment, around anything more than Jeff Hardy coming in, is I think we're doing more Broken Universe stuff. And Broken Matt Hardy has not worked in AEW, like when they first brought him in.
But that's because he didn't have Brother Nero.
Well, that could be the argument to be made, but Matt has been talking a lot about how he wants to do Broken stuff again. And I kind of feel that it's had its time. And I would actually, despite the fact that I've been quite negative on WWE just bringing back tag teams for nostalgia runs, I think I would much rather just have the nostalgia run here than them trying, because like actually saying that, the Broken stuff probably would feel like a nostalgia run as well, because it's like, 10 years old at this point. But I would probably not do it.
I can't see Tony letting that back on the show. He seems a lot more clear about what the limits
I hope
are.
so, yeah.
Maybe, but I think Matt will do Broken stuff, but maybe on his YouTube channel. That's hopefully what he's talking about. Before we get on with the rest of the show, of course, WrestleTalk.com/support. Keep getting your Omegachats and your hate of me in. I'll read them out and address the criticisms of my criticisms. But we've also got a sponsor today.
We do indeed. BetterHelp.com/wrestle. While you're clicking that WrestleTalk.com/support link, click the other link as well and support BetterHelp and support yourself. Use our promo code WRESTLE for 10% off your first month. WrestleTalk highly endorses BetterHelp. It has in fact been used by 2 of our staff members. Both Tempest and Andy have gone on record to talk about how they have really enjoyed and really benefited from BetterHelp services. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Use our promo code WRESTLE.
This episode of Dynamite, I think what's getting lost is that I freaking loved the first hour before it went off. Well, before it exploded in all different directions.
What you tend to find is that people will sort of ignore all of the positive things you say and only focus on the negative things you say. I was actually rereading a quote that I did when I interviewed Paul W.S. Anderson about Mortal Kombat, when he said that the film came out and it was quite a big hit, and New Line forwarded him across all of the reviews. So he had them in 2 snacks, positive reviews and the negative reviews, and they were about 50-50. And he said, and I read every single one of them. And I think this is a quote. It was a time when I cared what reviewers think. And he said, I read every single piece of it, but for the life of me, I cannot remember any of the positive reviews, but I do remember all of the negative reviews. So I think when people watched your Dynamite review, they just saw the score at the end and was like, well, Ollie hated everything that was on this show, which is why I came in front loaded to be like, you hate Dynamite.
Saving AEW. I mean, I don't know. I also think it might be, I have been very, very praising of AEW, and a lot of people who love AEW are like, hey, this guy, he said, this is great to hear what I think said by somebody else.
Echo chamber.
Yeah. And then, when I hold AEW up to the standards I said I would do, which is against, admittedly, a standard set by AEW. Like, that's what I rank everything. The best AEW show is what I rank everything else against. I don't think it's been good for the second hour of this week. So, when people hear that, it's like, oh, wait, I know, but I enjoyed all of this stuff. So I can see.
I totally get the feedback that you've been getting. I also totally appreciate where you're coming from, because this was an episode when you asked me, like, what did you think about it? I said, yeah, no, I enjoyed the episode. I didn't love the episode, but I did enjoy the episode. And I think that stems from me when I look back to the Raw review that me and Pete did this week, which had a match of the year candidate in the triple threat tag match: RK Bro, Alpha Academy, and Rollins and Owens. Like, it was an incredible match. Took up 45 minutes of the first hour or whatever it was. A sensational match. And then the rest of the show, nothing happened. And you're watching it and just be like, oh, okay, right, well, what's the next thing? All right, well, nothing's happening here. What's the next thing? Oh my god, nothing's happening here either. So when me and Pete came down to review, we're like, I've got literally nothing to say about this show, which is why we ended up playing 2K for a bit. But whereas I watched Dynamite, every segment almost feels like it is designed to make you as a viewer and as a fan be like, oh, okay, here is something I can talk about now. Here are some possibilities that stem out of this that I can talk about with my friends. And I would much rather that than watching a show that is actively boring.
Well, this show opened with what wasn't even the best segment. I'd say the Regal one was. But it was Chris Jericho coming down, sort of saying to Eddie Kingston, who wasn't there yet, that he gave him one of the best matches of his career, definitely in AEW. Like, really put over Eddie, invites Eddie out because Jericho says, I did not shake your hand. That was my fault. I got angry with myself. Eddie comes out, cuts this incredible promo about how on Friday, before the pay-per-view, he was thinking about not turning up. He was going to go out and get drunk, but it was at the meet and greet for AEW where 4 or 5 people came up to him and said, your Players Tribune article on addiction and alcoholism and depression stopped me from committing suicide. And Eddie realized, I've got to do the match for them.
We had an email in from one of those people. I'm not going to say their name, but to say that there was some legitimacy to Eddie's promo tonight. I got to meet him at FanFest on Saturday and talked with him about how important his article and everything it has meant and what it meant for me. They then go into what their story actually meant. When he came out tonight with that promo, I know it's just a work for him, but even the thought about it and turn it into such a positive means everything. I know I couldn't be prouder to be an Eddie Kingston fan. Eddie is legit the best.
Incredible. I mean, what more can you say to that?
There's a nice thing where he's like, because talked about his troubles with Eddie, and he writes, like, they're right here. The last few days, I just regretted the whole thing, that it was dumb, that he wouldn't have actually cared about, and I probably just made him uncomfortable or whatever. And then he cuts the promo on Dynamite tonight. It's great.
What an incredible hero. So he says that, and Eddie said, like, look, that's my handshake right there. I don't need a handshake from you, Chris Jericho, which was Tempest's sort of bugbear with the finish of the pay-per-view match. He wanted Jericho to go to shake Eddie's hand, and then Eddie's like, I don't need you, put up the middle finger. But I think we got that. We just didn't get it on the show. Eddie never needed that handshake, is what he's saying.
The look on his face said that he doesn't need this handshake. He's just doing it because Chris Jericho set it up as the stipulation of the match. But Eddie Kingston was like laughing as he was doing it, being like, oh, okay, cool, let's do this handshake then.
By the way, during this promo from Eddie, some people were doing the what chant. And Eddie just shut them down and said, hey, look, Steve Austin, your boy isn't here. Show me some respect. And they stopped. What a bunch of idiots.
Oh, yeah.
I hope they wake up in the middle of the night and go, why did I do that? that you deserve those thoughts.
Certainly
in the
do.
shower. I want it to ruin your day for the next couple of weeks.
Or like in a couple of years' time, you'll just be driving along and they'll be like, I remember that time I shouted at Eddie Kingston and he shut me down.
So Jericho anyway said, look, I respect you. Thank you for the great match. Put it there. And they shook hands. And I'm like, God damn, this is nice. I guess that's it, right? And then 2.0 and Daniel Garcia run down. I'm like, oh my God. It's just a way to give some people they can fight them off. Whatever. Maybe a tag team. I don't want that. But 2.0 never attacked Jericho. Have you gone back and watched this?
No, I actually haven't.
Oh my God. So you don't notice it first time, but I was like, surely they attack Jericho in this. Because you hate that when the people come in and then are like, Swerve, we're with that guy we just attacked. They never touch him. They sort of go to him and just push him over, and Jericho sells the neck.
And they commentators be like, oh man, and he's got that bad neck because of the bump that he took in that Kingston match, which they were showing replays of at the start. That's a lovely bit of detail.
Really, really good. Like, that's high-level thinking. And 2.0, they're beating them both up, but they're not really beating up Jericho. They pass... No, how did it go? Santana...
Ortiz
ran down for the save. They were saving, but then Jericho beat up Santana and Ortiz with the bat. Jake Hager runs down. He looks conflicted. Oh, shall I do this? Yeah. And he beats up Santana and Ortiz.
Jericho looks at him and is like, just remember who brought you here. And that's what had him conflict, because he didn't want to see Jericho beating up what's supposed to be his family. And I've written in my notes here, this might be the best thing that Jake Hager's done in AEW.
He looked freaking ripped when he took off his top. I was like, when did you get all those muscles? He was always a muscly guy, but looks like he's really been training. How many people were in on this? Because by the end of it, they put over how premeditated this was, the way the attack was orchestrated. I thought that Jake Hager was just doing a bit of a thing. I thought he was in on it.
I don't think he was in on it.
Okay.
I think he made his decision in the moment of whose side is he on, and that was the side that he had picked. But everything else, the stuff with Jericho and 2.0, was premeditated. They've been clearly working on that behind the scenes. Commentary were really putting over that Jericho has been orchestrating this. He's the puppet master here. How far back does this go? And what I quite like about this, because Pete kicked up a bit of a stink about it in the office because he hates everything. And he was like, but Jericho was just feuding with them just a couple of months back. And I was like, I reckon if you go back to the start of like this whole Jericho Kingston thing, you could probably map out when this all came together and when Jericho was making these decisions and when the turns and everything were planned. It's probably been there in plain sight for us all to see, but we didn't see the pieces coming together.
I think it's the moment Santana and Ortiz didn't tag him in that match. Because that match was against 2.0 and Daniel Garcia, I believe. Yeah. That would have been the last interaction. But yeah, when Hager makes a decision, boy, does he really commit, because he just about powerbombed Kingston through a table on the outside, where everyone in the ring helped him to get up. Like even Santana and Ortiz were probably like, yeah, let me help you up there, Eddie.
I almost felt like Eddie was, because this is real to him.
Yeah.
So he was like, well, I'm going to make it look as real as possible. So Jacob was like, well, this is how powerbombs work. Oh my God, no, he's trying to stop me doing this.
So Jericho then declared this new inner circle, really, sort of 2/5 of the inner circle are still there, as the Jericho Appreciation Society. And he said, and that's entertainment, pointing to Kingston's carcass.
I hope it's purposefully bad. Like, it's supposed to, we're supposed to look and be like, oh, that's quite a bad name. I'm hoping that is the point, because it is a bad name. The punchline, and like the punchline, that the tagline and stuff is almost like that's purposely bad.
I don't think it's bad. I like it from a obnoxious Jericho egotist perspective. I think it makes sense with him.
It certainly makes sense with his character, because the inner circle was born out of people not appreciating what he had done. All he was looking for was thank yous. Yeah. And it was Santana and Ortiz were the first people to say thank you to him. And his inner circle was brought out of the only people that appreciated Chris Jericho. So to actually break up that faction and start a new one that he thinks these are the people that appreciate me is actually quite a nice little character beat.
And the idea of that's entertainment. We've already had quite a few references to Jericho being a sports entertainer rather than a wrestler. Do you think this is I'm a WWE style entertainer in an AEW product heel gimmick?
Well, he was trying to trademark the term sports entertainer And I think he was probably going to drop the influencer thing and just be the sports entertainer Chris Jericho. I think WWE ended up putting a stop to it because they've held the rights to that, the rights on that term for 30 years, more than that in fact, because they have been trying to convince people that that is what it is called, even though everyone still calls it wrestling.
Are you excited? I think that's a real. I think this could be. We've always talked recently about how Jericho is in between good gimmicks. This has a lot of potential.
It has a lot of potential. Here is my one slight criticism I would have against the segment. So I thought this segment.
You hate AEW.
Clearly I do, but because I thought this was a great segment. I thought everyone did a really, really great job. In particular, Jake Hager. I want to put that over again. Here's the one thing that I did think coming out of it, though. I want Daniel Garcia with Danielson and John Moxley. I don't want him with these guys. It made me think, he's not going to be joining Moxley and Danielson now. That's just what I was hoping he would do.
Yeah, I don't think the Regal, I want to call them the Gentlemen, if you just want to, if we can make that a thing right now. I don't think the Gentlemen are going to be a training gym. I think it's just going to be them three.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree. Garcia doesn't really fit. 2.0 are made for Chris Jericho.
Oh yeah.
But what an inspired pairing. They can just shout at each other. Do your
John Moxley. Gonna put another guy. John Moxley, Rampage. You just got to shout the words.
So heel Jericho, great, and of course, as a consequence of this, Santana, Ortiz, and Kingston, which is what we've wanted. They got there, so yes. We got a recap of CM Punk and MJF. Punk said he had to become like a monster, but now that monster is dead.
Long live CM Punk.
Dante Martin took on Hangman Page in, you know what, this is one of my favorite things Hangman has done in his title reign. Honestly, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you for one. So it only went 5-7 minutes.
You hated both the Danielson matches.
I love the Danielson matches. It was the story. Dante Martin just had a 5-7 minute match here. He looked great, but Hangman never looked in any trouble. So it was the perfect style of match for that. Just to get Dante over. He now becomes the youngest person ever to have challenged for the world title. And afterwards, Hangman was like, get back in here, shook his hand, and put him over. And I thought, man, if Hangman... This is what I wanted from Hangman after he won the title. To be like, look, Kenny Omega was a douchebag. He wouldn't bring the belt around. He kept himself to him, just crazy cokehead Kenny, right? Now I am going to do what this should do. I'm going to be a fighting champion, Dante Martin. And, he has a sort of Cody TNT title run.
I'm happy with that. He was the number 2 ranked guy. Just be like, yeah, cool. I'm going to face you for the title. Yeah. It's just the match was short, as it should be, but it was they were really putting over good effort by Dante. He didn't embarrass himself in this position. In a kayfabe style, I do mean. He didn't embarrass himself in this position. He put up a good fight. I thought this was a really, really good segment. And then afterwards, Paige calls him back down to the ring to shake his hand and everything, be like, I look forward to facing you again for this title. And Adam Cole comes out and be like, oh, God, enough of this lovey-dovey stuff. I'm going to throw up over here. And calls his victory at Revolution a fluke. And he challenged him to a 6-man tag next week, where he said, I've already got my 2 guys picked out. And these 2 guys are my friends, not yours. And so, leading everyone to think it's the Young Bucks.
Well, should we talk about that now? Because later on, we got Red Dragon, Cole, Young Bucks backstage, and Cole's cutting the promo. He's saying and my tag team partners are going to be, and the Young Bucks well, man, if it's with Hangman, we don't want any part of it. And Cole goes, I wasn't going to pick you anyway.
I don't think he ever was going to pick them.
Oh, really?
I think it was always Red Dragon.
No, I think he was going for the Bucks.
I don't know. I think it was always Red Dragon that he had picked out. Maybe I'm wrong on this.
It could be either.
Because I thought it was a very funny segment of just these 2 guys, they're my friends. I've known them for years. They like to party. You may as well be they've got long hair. They wear flashy clothes. It's Red Dragon. But because Matt said before to me, if it's Hangman, we don't want any involved, which I love that as a character beat. And then Cole's I'm picking Red Dragon. Riley goes gee, how self-centered are you, Matt?
Meanwhile, Paige is backstage with the Dark Order, and he goes, hey, I just want to apologize for pushing you. It was Reynolds, wasn't it, at the pay-per-view? And John Silver's well, yeah, which combination of us lovable goofs is going to team with you next week? And Hangman's like, oh, I saw Jurassic Express in the corridor and they asked, so I went with them. And like, I really like this.
Yeah.
I like the idea that Hangman, you know, how he was putting him, I thought he was a great world champion in that Dante match. But he still has these character flaws, but he's still a babyface. I loved Hangman in this episode.
I thought he was really great. And I thought Dark Order sold this perfectly. We actually had an Ultra Chat in, I can't remember when it was now. It might have been, I don't remember which show it was. Or it might have been during our live reactions for Revolution. That asked, like, why do the Dark Order still like Hangman Page? Because he's been a bad friend to them. And I made the argument, like, well, it's because they love him and they want to see him succeed. And Hangman isn't doing this on purpose. He's not being dicks to the Dark Order on purpose. Like, he's very apologetic. He just realizes that, oh man, I've been quite a bad friend here. Like, I just haven't spoken to them for a while. I've got friends like this myself. That they're my longest running friends. And they'll be like, I won't speak to them for like a couple of months or something. I'll be like, oh man, I really feel bad about it. Actually, I haven't messaged them. I'll message me like, sorry, I haven't been in touch. And they'll be like, yeah, you know, it's fine. Like, we haven't been in touch either, and this, that, and the other. But I still, you know, feel bad about that. And you're right. Like, he's a babyface champion, but he has character flaws. And the Dark Order now feel like doormats to that. Well, at least John Silver is still the doormat because he's like, hey, you know, it's all good. Like, it's all fine. But Reynolds is looking at him being like, this guy, it's worth remembering the Dark Order saved him. When he was at his lowest ebb, it was those guys that saved him. And I now feel bad for them, but I don't think Hangman is wrong because they've done a really good job of sort of like making him feel like a real person.
It is really not clearly delineated by heel and face. These are characters. That's when WWE claim to have shades of grey storytelling. I don't know what they're talking about. This is it. So yeah, that loads of possibilities. I'm not sure how excited I am about seeing Cole and Page continue, I must admit. Hopefully it's just a couple of weeks thing before the next solo feud starts.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure it's Punk. Like I would put money on it that Punk is the next guy for him to face. They sort of had set up his MJF feud as like a number one contendership style feud. So I think this is just give Punk a little bit of time off, like as opposed to just Punk doing that brutal dog collar match, then the next episode being like, it's me.
Yeah.
But this sets up something for next week, furthers the storyline, and we can probably end it at like a big slam show.
One of the slams.
Slam vent.
One of the monthly slams. Easter slam.
Mother's Day slam.
I'm gonna slam your mum.
Again.
Slam all the mums out there. The next segment was my favourite thing in the show. God damn. Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson comes out with William Regal. Jon Moxley enters through the crowd. It is fascinating to watch how separately Danielson and Moxley conduct themselves, yet when they wrestle, they are seamlessly integrated. Tag in, but businesslike, professional. And they took on the WorkHorsemen, I'm not familiar with, but apparently it's very good.
They're a Ring of Honor team.
Right. Well, I really like JD Drake. And yeah, Danielson and Mox just, again, very similar to Dante Martin and Hangman Page. Never looked in trouble, but I felt like Drake and WorkHorsemen came out looking pretty good. Wait, are they the WorkHorsemen?
Yeah.
So it's not, what was the name of the other guy?
Oh, I actually didn't catch his name. They mentioned that they were a Ring of Honor tag team. It's the commentary team explaining things to me, so I understand as a viewer. But I only know JD Drake of that.
I fast forwarded through this bit probably. So that makes sense. He is not the workhorse man.
No,
they are the
horseman
because JD Drake's in the horse. The wingman.
The wingman. So their tag team in Ring of Honor and on the Indies is the WorkHorsemen.
It's a good name.
It's a play off the Horseman.
But anyway, Mox and Danielson made them look great, but looked themselves even better. Regal's on the outside, gurning all the way through. And then when they won, it went to sort of sexy smile Regal. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah. My favorite spot of this is when Danielson had the lad in the floating surfboard stretch, or the flying surfboard stretch, and then he tags in Moxley while he's still applying the surfboard stretch, so Moxley can get in and bite the nose of the other lads. That was great.
They've immediately become my favorite tag team.
Anthony Henry is the other
That's
guy.
it. I knew it was an Anthony. So after the win, Regal gets in the ring and he's with Tony Schiavone, who was actually treated like an interviewer as opposed to a glorified mic stand.
Well, Regal's only just come into AEW.
He doesn't know.
He's so used to the WWE style. He doesn't know how Tony works in this company.
Yeah, the WWE style, famously, where interviewers get loads of interaction. I guess they do.
Yeah.
My guest at this time.
Exactly, yeah.
What do you think about this?
Look at Riddle and Randy Orton with Kevin and like the Alpha Academy with Kevin.
And Regal cuts this just encapsulating promo. Encapsulating, enrapturing, compelling promo.
Compelling is a good word.
Where he talks about he's lived a hard life. Of course, he's had his own battles with addiction and stuff. And he said
It's what I deserved. He talks about the real man's man giving. It's what I deserved.
He said his time's running out. And I thought, how old is Regal? And he said, I'm 53. I thought, Sting, 62, he just did a balcony dive.
And really Regal's like, in 10 years' time, I'll be wheeled around by the old wife and I'll be staring out of the window thinking, oh, the good times that I had.
Yeah. And he said he's thousands of broken bottles and a few broken hearts, sweetheart. Like he went lovey and he went, you've got to get a better tailor, dear, to Tony or something like that. He was awesome. He called Regal and Moxley, he called Danielson and Moxley gentlemen. These two gentlemen here. And that's why I thought, that's the name, hopefully. Have you seen The Gentleman?
The film?
The Guy Ritchie movie.
I have not.
It's fine.
I feel like you could say that about any Guy Ritchie movie that isn't Lock, Stock or Snatch. Which, like, have you seen this movie by Guy Ritchie? No. That's fine.
I'm going to vouch. Obviously, Sherlock Holmes, Rock and Roller, I think is underrated. And Is it Revolver? Is bonkers in a good way. You know, it's when he was with Madonna and he was like, I'm a Kabbalist now. But yeah, so Regal legit started to cry at one point when he put over Tony Schiavone for helping him when he got into the US. He said, obviously, I'm no longer required in my old show, talking about NXT. And then he said, it's thanks to Bryan Danielson that you all know my name. Because when Danielson would come out of Ring of Honor, they always said trained by William Regal. And that's what Regal said, that's what made him relevant to this new generation.
Called Danielson a perfect wrestler. He's the wrestler that I could never be.
Because Regal had his problems and Danielson didn't. And he said that he liked how Mox and Danielson settled things like men in the ring. And then he's called them the perfect combination. And they're gonna, if anyone tries to step up, they'll get stepped on.
Yeah, you either step up or you get stepped on.
So I don't think we're having that faction of younger guys.
No, I don't think so currently. This feels like we are leading to probably, Jurassic Express, they've still got the tag titles, versus Mox and Danielson at Double or Nothing. Likely with them winning the belts, I would have thought. I thought it was a really, really great promo because it's Regal and I love him. And I do think that it went slightly long. It felt like it should have wrapped up a little bit. You can almost hear like someone at ringside going like, wrap it up, William.
Apparently there was.
Really?
Yeah, there's like a lot of live reports of someone going, do with the time.
It did feel like he was just like, just give me 5 more minutes, sunshine. I want to tell a story about Tony Schiavone from 13 years ago.
I've heard it described as a Hall of Fame induction speech. I'm just going to talk.
That's exactly what it is. Just like, I don't need it written down for me, sunshine. I'll just go out there. When I think of William Regal as well, like obviously I think of watching him when I was a kid and stuff. But when the Vaudevillains debuted in NXT, he put out this tweet or like he did an interview or something when I was like, what a perfect name. I don't know how I've never thought of that before because that's what I have been my entire wrestling career as a vaudevillain. And I'm angry that I didn't come up with that first. Big fan of Steptoe and Son, William Regal. My friend I had a tweet conversation with him about their favorite episodes of Steptoe and Son.
Well, yeah, so this is very, very exciting. It's the thing I'm most excited about in professional wrestling right now. Then the rest of the show happened. So, we got the Hangman stuff with the Dark Order we've already covered. Pac took on Wheeler Yuta. I like this. They said because the world title match ran so short,
it didn't go the full 60 minutes.
We've got Pac and Wheeler Yuta standing by. They had
it wasn't going to be another women's match, was it?
They had a decent match, but not much heat at all, unfortunately. Then we had Cole backstage picking the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, this for me, I love the setup of it, that we have this bonus match here because the world title match didn't go on as planned. But I have written here, yeah, this should have been a Keith Lee or a women's match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Keith Lee squash match would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I know Keith Lee's on Rampage, but this felt like this accomplished nothing. Whereas I would have liked, if you're going to put this bonus match out there, I would have liked to accomplish something.
Do you feel like Keith Lee is a Rampage talent in the same way Jade Cargill is a Rampage talent?
Not at all. He's been there for 3 weeks. I don't know where.
No, but like where he's being positioned.
Not at all.
Okay.
Like he was heavily featured in that ladder match. Like he was put over as, outside of Wardlow, probably one of the biggest stars in that match. Like he was probably third behind Orange Cassidy.
Great. Cole did the Bucks.
But he didn't win the world title on his first night in. So you're right, he is lost in the shuffle now.
Exactly. Then randomly, this is when like the show sort of, I don't know, took a line in the bathroom.
Out there in the parking lot! You were there! Parking lot! 3 years ago! Ran there in the parking lot! Ring of Honor 17 years ago! I bought it now! It's mine!
FTR are backstage. They're with Tully. Dax is saying, it's all about my family. I'm doing this for my family, my daughter. I love my daughter, my wife. I'm coming for the Bucks, for Red Dragon, of course, because they interacted in those battle royals. And Tully's like, well, dude, like, you brought me on so we could win championships. And then Cash turns to him and says, no, it is about family. And you're not family. So you're fired. Which is a nice line. But I'm like, where's this coming from?
What happened here? Have I missed, like, 5 episodes of Dark where they've been really building this?
No, I don't think so. And it's also like, I know that the Pinnacle have lost Wardlow. But to me, in my head, before this segment, Tully, FTR, Shawn, and MJF were very still much a faction.
Yeah. And I think the FTR are still part of the Pinnacle. It's just they've now fired Tully.
I feel like that's got to be a group decision. He's not just kicking Tully out of FTR, he's kicking him out of the Pinnacle.
Yeah,
this was baffling to me.
It was very weird. I'm excited. We'll get to the Wardlow bit in just a second, really. But I'm curious to see how this plays in with MJF because I do have some thoughts.
You think it's a babyface term for FTR?
I don't know. Like they work better as heels. Like they are just such a good heel team.
We had the Jeff Hardy segment next. Swerve, what's he going by? Swerve Strickland? Shane Strickland?
Swerve Strickland.
Swerve Strickland. He's so freaking cool. Oh my God. Every second he's on screen, I just been showered with charisma. Tony Nese came up to him and was like, I'll have a match with you on Rampage because, 205 Live, right?
Well, Tony Nese walked in and I said to Pete, oh yeah, I forgot he's here.
Yeah.
And you wanted to, he is someone who was lost in the shuffle, like him and Jay Lethal. And his promo essentially was, you've come into this company with a lot of fanfare. I came in and no one cared. So let's have a match on Rampage. Like, way to bury yourself, Tony.
It's a good first sort of enhancement match for Swerve.
It's the main event of Rampage. And do you know what? I love Swerve, so I'm looking forward to watching the match.
Then we got a Wardlow promo. Wardlow came out, Tony Schiavone doing the sort of microphone holding in the ring. And Wardlow told a story about how he grew up very poor. His family is very poor, but Max gave him a route. He gave him money. He thanks Max for that. He's still under contract with them, but he no longer gives a damn. He's no longer a member of the Pinnacle. He's finally free. He's going to win the TNT title to get a new contract. So that's very important because it's not just the championship that's at stake. It's kind of Wardlow's legal future in kayfabe. And then he finished saying AEW is officially Wardlow's world.
Yeah, I don't love that as a catchphrase.
No.
So, a couple of ways that this could go. My thinking of this was always that Wardlow was going to win the title and then have to hand it over to MJF because MJF owns everything that Wardlow accomplishes. And then especially because Max cut that promo being like, hey, look, if you win the Revolution ladder match and you win the TNT title, I'm not going to take it off of you. Almost sowing the seeds off that. But if it is now that if he wins the title, he gets a new contract, then I would imagine MJF is going to try and cost him the belt next week. And Scorpio Sky will remain champion. And that will be a way for MJF to keep Wardlow under his services and trap that beast back into the cage. Because I'm so fascinated to see what MJF's reaction to this is. MJF's come out and being like, you don't get to choose here. You don't get to choose to leave the Pinnacle. You don't get to choose to stop being my bodyguard.
Tully did.
Well, yeah, but Max doesn't own Tully.
Yeah.
He does own Wardlow. So I'm so curious to see what the next step of this is.
I can't see Scorpio Sky having a 1 week reign.
Yeah, being a transitional champ. Well, when Scorpio won, I was like, I wonder if they just put the belt on Scorpio because they don't want Wardlow to beat Sammy. So it is just put it on a heel.
Could be that as
and
well.
Wardlow can beat the heel next week.
Brian Alvarez had an email into Wrestling Observer of some fantasy booking, and it is inspired, where MJF comes out next week before the match, the TNT title match, and goes, you know what, Wardlow, you're right. I took advantage of you, so I'm going to release you from your contract. And then he walks off, turns back round. There's a 90-day non-compete clause. How good's that?
That is great.
I don't know what you do from there.
No.
Maybe have Wardlow just run in from the crowd at points. God damn, that's effing funny.
It is funny.
So just my... Wardlow is a surprisingly good talker. This promo came off to me as, by AEW standards, and I know it's unfair to judge everything at the AEW standards of like CM Punk, MJF on the mic. This was a 5-6 out of 10.
This was, go out there, kid. Show me what you can do.
It felt... If this was in WWE, we'd be saying, man, that was a good promo. But it felt quite WWE-like.
He is a guy that, and there's been wrestlers like this in the past. Actually, we've seen a lot. It's like, I think the less you talk, the better it is. And like, I love the fact he got to tell this personal story to him and like explain why he's been with MJF this long. Because that's been some criticisms of people who saying, why did he sign with MJF in the first place? Like, why is he always doing these sorts of things? And he was like, look, I knew he was a bad dude when I signed the deal, but I had to sign the deal. The storyline I was doing with Anna Jay got dropped, so I had to sign. Me and Adam came up with an idea for a new list video for him. 10 things in AEW in the last 3 years that you forgot happened.
Yeah. Surprisingly, quite a few.
Yeah, you remember, what's his name, that comedian unveiled the World Tag title?
Jack Whitehall.
Jack Whitehall. Yeah. Remember he was on the first show? Anyway, so I liked a lot of this. But yeah, he is a guy that I would have. Let's not talk too much. But I don't think he's a bad promo, which is actually, could have been way worse.
He's not a bad promo, but sometimes, and I would say this is the fault of the booking, is you've got a guy who you could argue is an 8 to a 9 out of 10 in sort of look. He's a 8 to 9 out of 10 in wrestling, in-ring wrestling, when he's, booked in the right way. But he's a 6 out of 10 on the mic. So don't put him out on the mic for a whole segment by himself.
Yes,
there is a definite way to do all those points in a much less ham-fisted style via a better person, and that is through the course of the feud, MJF hits all those story and character points, but says it in a disparaging way towards Wardlow. Like, oh yeah, you're going to go back to your poor family, your poor sister, all that stuff, while he's building up, I'm MJF, I'm from this ivory castle. That would have been a far more effective way. This concerned me.
Didn't concern me in the least.
Cool. Keith Lee's backstage. And I literally screamed no when QT Marshall walked in.
Why?
Because I don't want Keith Lee to be involved in a feud with QT Marshall at this stage in his AEW run.
But he's not. He's in a feud with Team Taz.
I hope so.
Well, of course he is. Like, the whole point of this is that QT Marshall walked in and said, look, we've both got problems with Team Taz. You've got problems with Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. I don't like that disrespectful hook. So why don't we team up? In effect, it was like, we here, me, QT Marshall, Factory, we've got your back. Keith Lee looked at him and said, like, I've got a pretty big back. I'm good.
Great
and then
line.
he walked off. And then QT Marshall was like, I never liked you anyway, Keith Lee, you suck. And then we've got a match on Rampage. Keith Lee kills QT Marshall. It's a nice little beat to set up a match for Rampage, and you can continue the feud between Keith Lee and Team Taz.
Okay. I've just realised we've still got 3 rather large segments left. And that's like, we're about an hour 20 into this show.
And which I'll be honest with you, I think is a good thing. Dude, I literally watched nothing happen on Raw this week. So maybe that's why you're not so, you didn't have to watch Raw this week, where, nothing happened for 3 hours.
No, I genuinely think it's hot shot booking. And that's bad. And it doesn't let the things breathe the amount that they should do, which means they mean less. This program had 4 weeks of storytelling on it, and they burned through it in a night. And I think that is a genuine mistake.
It was what happened during the Attitude Era, the hottest period of wrestling.
Yes, and we can look back on that now and go, that is ADD booking.
Yeah.
And it isn't actually good for a long-term survival of a product.
But we have got it now with much better workers and much better storytelling, much better in-ring wrestling, and it's making a much better product off the back of it.
If you like this style of slapdash storytelling, where it's just a million things a minute, all the power to you. That's not my tastes. I like stuff in the first hour, or what we had in January.
And which I totally get.
The Acclaimed took on Jurassic Express. It's a tag team title match. It's randomly here. Really good match. Anthony Bowens is freaking great. I actually bought a few of these near falls.
Sorry, so we've got a line here. AEW is too good. 73% Ollie Davis.
Christian stopped Caster cheating, which allowed Jurassic Express to retain.
Really good near fall off that spike pile driver. Crowd really bought that as a title change because they'd already done the mic check with Jungle Boy getting the pin broken up. Thought it was really good. Crowd didn't seem much into it, though. The crowd were very underwhelmed for a lot of this second hour until they got to the main event.
Jade Cargill issued an open challenge backstage.
It made it sound like it was someone who isn't in the company at the moment because they were literally running down all the people that she's beaten. And then said, who's going to step up next? ROH or Impact, maybe. Forbidden Door.
Layla Hirsch took on Thunder Rosa. This was the sort of number one contenders match to next week's Britt Baker title shot. This match never really clicked, and it had a commercial break, and the crowd weren't into it. It's unfortunate because I like both women a lot. Layla Hirsch tried to cheat with the turnbuckle again from under the ring, but Red Velvet stopped that happening, and a few moves after, Rosa won.
Yeah, I thought they worked well. The crowd were not into it, and I think that hurt the match.
I don't even know if the match was that good.
It's not my favourite Thunder Rosa match I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it was like Red Velvet stopped Layla Hirsch cheating to a shocking little reaction. But, Thunder Rosa got the win. She really sold the win after the match as well, particularly with the announcement that next week it's going to be a steel cage match. And then Britt Baker got to cut a promo off the back of that saying, I'm not scared of facing you in a cage. What I'm scared of is what happens if a carny wins this world title. So I thought it was a really nice line and stuff. And, she's talking about she's going to be the one to walk out next week as the champion because you may have won last year, but who really won when you think about it?
Great line.
Great line.
Steel cage match makes sense as well. The amount Rebel and Jamie Hayter got involved at the pay-per-view. I'm just not into this story, unfortunately. But I am looking forward to after the steel cage match and we all go, wow, that was amazing, incredible. And then we can move on and forget the sort of year of nothingness in between these two great matches.
I'd said this, I think we did this on the Revolution live reactions, but for a storyline that has been put on hold for a year because they wanted to give it as much time between the two matches, they did not capitalize on it as much as they should have done. Tomorrow on the podcast, Denise, unfortunately, won't be joining us tomorrow on the Team Danuke podcast. So instead, I'm going to be joined by Thunder Rosa.
Yes!
Thunder Rosa is coming onto the show to talk about AEW Dynamite, the match next week, Revolution, and Mission Pro Wrestling, which is her promotion, and the show that they're doing at GCW, the Collective, over WrestleMania weekend.
Oh my God. Honestly, Thunder Rosa, and we've been saying it for a year and a half, even before the Baker match. She should be the champion.
Yeah. And
her and Shida, that are my favourite women's wrestlers.
And I think she'll be champion next Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, tune into that, subscribe, do all the stuff. My God. We still have the main event left to talk about where a gazillion things happen. I'm going to try and run through them. It's for the TNT title. It's Sammy Guevara versus Scorpio Sky. Sammy Guevara hits a 630 senton off the top rope through a table outside that Scorpio Sky gets out the way from, right at the start of the match. Go to commercial break, come back. Sammy hasn't been counted out. The referees have used their discretion and said, always, let's get medical to check on him first. Sammy can continue to compete. By this point, Tay Conti, who I don't believe has been set up as an on-screen real-life girlfriend yet.
No, they were doing it on commentary. They were explaining to you why she was there.
So Conti came down, Sammy's real-life girlfriend, and that, which I guess, like, if you don't follow social media and vlogs and stuff, you're like, didn't that guy just propose to his girlfriend in August?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's done some stuff. When he does his Love Actually placards?
Yeah.
Maybe he's done something there.
So Tay's down there trying to, get some emotional investment in the story, which I think was very well accomplished.
I thought it really worked.
Sammy struggles up to fight, but by this point, Tay is in the face of fellow American top team member Paige Van Zandt. She's in the crowd. They wrestle back and forth. Paige Van Zandt slapped Conti. That distracted Sammy. And freaking Scorpio Sky won the TNT title. All of America top team celebrate at the end, and Paige Van Zandt drags Tay Conti's body, dumps it on Sammy, and signs the contract on the ass, Bill. The ass.
Yeah, she did sign it right on her butt.
Not the butthole, though.
Not the butthole.
It was a cheek.
It was on one of the cheeks.
Yeah.
I thought this was a really, really great match.
Yeah.
In terms of the drama that they built, the performances that they put in. Sammy's 630 through the table.
Good
I
God.
screamed. Legit, like, when I watched this in the office today, I had it on the TV, and that happened, and I shouted a very loud expletive, and then went, "Oh, effing hell!" And Pete looked at me and was like, "The table spot, yeah?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, the table spot." And I thought Scorpio was selling this over. Ethan Page standing in ring, so I was like, "Just give him the belt. Just put the belt on him."
Well, to be fair, like, Sky did the 10 count.
I mean, that wouldn't win him the match. That would have counted him out. Can't win on a count out.
Good point.
I said that to Sky through the TV. When he started doing that, I was like, "Sky, don't do this. You won't win the match, you div." And I thought the way they worked after the match as well, like Sammy's always had his ribs. They were putting over how hard Sammy has been working over these last few weeks. The amount of TNT title matches that he's done. He's had more matches than he's had weeks effectively. I thought it was a really, really great bit of storytelling. And he still managed to hit the GTH. And the crowd were like, "Okay, cool, that's the finish he's worked it." But Sky rolls to the ropes and just gets outside. And Ty's like, "Oh no." And when Sky hits the TKO, the crowd still didn't believe that it was going to be the finish. Probably because you and I have been saying on these shows, we ain't winning. Like, Scorpio Sky, oh yeah, lol, he's not winning this match. And he won the match. He's the first person to hold the AEW World Tag Team titles and the TNT title. He's still undefeated for like over a year. I really thought they were just going to keep Sammy going. I think this really swerved me, and I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, really good stuff. Cool for America top team as well, because they've been talking a big game since they came in, and they haven't really got any gold. So this is a really big reset. And this whole episode was a post-pay-per-view reset episode. A lot harder, I would argue, than all previous ones,
100%.
because it wasn't just about starting new storylines. They abruptly cut off old ones in quite a clunky way, I would argue it in some cases. But in this main event thing, they did a really good job.
Yeah, I thought a lot of this episode was really, really great. I don't think it was a perfect episode. I was never bored in the episode, though, so that's a big win. And a friend of mine texted me today to be like, he tends to just watch the pay-per-views, and then we'll watch 2 weeks worth of Dynamite, then he won't watch anything else, and then he'll watch the next pay-per-view. He texted me today being like, this is the first time where I feel like I have to keep watching and watch Dynamite. And he was texting me like, watching Dynamite, and he was like, there's so much stuff in it that is keeping me watching, and I think I might last longer than 2 weeks.
Well, hopefully that comes to pass. Look, it's not my taste, but a lot of stuff that isn't my taste is inexplicably popular. Coldplay.
Yeah, I mean,
the films of Pedro Almodovar.
They do sell out the O2, don't they, Coldplay, which I find staggering.
Yeah.
It must be the most boring thing to go to.
I don't get it. But overall, this was my lowest rated Dynamite of the year after my previous lowest rated Dynamite, 70%.
I did hear that you weren't a fan of this episode.
Look, I love the first half, but I genuinely think, look, at the end of the day, It's still substantially higher than the highest mark I've given Raw all year. It's a 3.5 out of 5 if you distill it into that form.
Well, it's because I'm still on the old 5 out of 5 ratings, or out of 5 ratings, and most weeks I've still been giving Dynamite a 5 out of 5 rating because I do love the show and I do think that this is the best weekly wrestling product that we have on TV 100%. By far. And every time I watch an episode, I'm like, God dang, I love this, and I can't wait to see the next episode. And every time Dynamite makes me think, I can't wait to watch the next episode. Oftentimes as well, can't wait to watch Rampage, which is one of my favorite shows to watch in the week because I don't have to take notes. I can literally just sit there and watch it, and it's a delight. And this is the episode that I've been like, this is a 4 out of 5 episode. Because I didn't love everything on this show. I thought there was probably a bit too much onto it. But I do applaud AEW for trying to cram as much into their product as possible. And a lot of it I really, really, really did enjoy. Looking at the community tab, however, which I have not got up on screen, 55% said it was a 5 out of 5 All Elite show. 32% saying it was a 4 out of 5 AEW Some. 9% saying it was 3 out of 5 mid.
Well, if it works, it works. It's not to my taste. So thank you to we've already gone massively over. So let's hammer through these Patreon Pledgehammer shoutouts.
Are you excited for our WrestleTalk Extra that we've got to do?
I have to watch the pay-per-view. It's TNA
Victory Road 2011.
Oh,
yeah. Did you not see
the one?
Yeah, that one.
I'd seen it, but it hadn't clicked. Oh
Yeah.
Crap! Oh, it's going to be depressing. The month Jeff comes back.
Okay, so we can now confirm, because Pete told me this last week, and he said, you and Ollie are the only people that are excited to talk about this show, because Pete told me, I was like, oh, amazing, it's that show. Because I'm looking at it from the perspective of, I cannot wait to go back and reread all the old Observers and Figure Fours, listen to the Wrestling Observer radio, see if what I can find from forum posts that were talking about Jeff at this point, because it is like, it's a horrible period. Really, really awful. And it was a dreadful moment in that man's career. But with the benefit of retrospect, I'm sort of very intrigued to see, to kind of go back to that point and see what the write-ups were at the time for it.
Well, become a Pledgehammer on Patreon, and you can get that when it goes live next week. Along with your own shout-outs on this show. Thank you, the Cyclone Brandon Sires.
Abominable Michael Abbott.
The reigning, defending, undisputed first WrestleTalk Super Chat donator, heavyweight champion of the world, Jeremiah Golder.
The British Bulldog, Philip Boy J. Smith Jr.
Greg Taylor, Soldier Spy.
He's no jackass, Dano.
Fantastic Mr. Good Old Fox.
The Roller Coaster, Robert Acosta.
WrestleTalk's personal ring announcer, Rodrigo Benitez.
Shield Maiden, the Zornice.
And Chris, the Cypriot sensation, Petru.
Love you all. You can get your personal shout-outs here on the WrestleTalk Podcast. Head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk.
Let's go through your Ultra Chats. There are a lot of them.
Of course there are.
So we will.
And that, again, I'm just going to say, people genuinely like talking about Dynamite.
Oh, yeah.
When we did Raw, no one had anything to say about the show, even in the Ultra Chats and things.
No.
Whereas, at least when you do a Dynamite show, people have thoughts, and that's what I like to see.
Jared Hazelwood. I think the reason the broken stuff didn't work initially was because it needs a crowd to work. They have one now, so why not give it a shot? I would say completely incorrect, because the broken stuff is a cinematic concept.
And it fell flat on its ass in WWE. Now, I know a lot of that blame can be placed at WWE, because I remember that Impact crowd that they were doing it in front of was a much, much smaller crowd that were into it. If you do this and it's in front of an audience that 60% are into it, that's really going to hurt the impression of it.
Andrew the Last Airbender. In one of the Patreon podcasts, there was an interesting note from Luke. In 2010, Matt claimed he started to act erratically at house shows to purposely get released so he could join Jeff in TNA. Guess we know where Jeff got his idea. Also, Ollie is right.
I think it's been very much established that this was not a work by Jeff Hardy to get fired from WWE.
Jeff had just re-signed. Yeah. They had loads of plans for him to feud with Roman, so I don't think so. Plan R. Having watched Lord Regal work for the past 29 years, I grew up thinking all British people were kind of like Regal, and not the cool NXT version, but like Lord Stephen Regal. I'm perpetually disappointed by all British people when they don't act like him.
In all fairness, Plan R, I'm also perpetually disappointed by all British people.
Kevin, idea for the gentleman's gimmick. Have them wrestle in a tag match, then they pick one of their opponents to join them so they can teach their opponents violence and create this stable of young lions. Regal's promo was amazing, by the way. WWE are idiots.
I'm going to slightly amend my statement. Just English people.
I'm into them as 3 people now. I don't think you want to dilute it right now.
Stick them just as a tag team. Go for those tag titles.
Omar Josui. Although this show wasn't the greatest, but that Regal promo did everything for me, getting emotional with Tony and explaining how Danielson is the fulfilled potential he once had and Mox is the embodiment of the struggles they both defeated. Incredible. Riot DR. Danielson is the best parts of Regal with none of the demons. Mox is the darkest parts of Regal, but has conquered and controlled those demons. I love wrestling, and I loved all of this. Side note, I've been beaten up by both JD Drake and Anthony Henry.
What did you say?
Zoe Sung, gentlemen, I present to you Team Steppies. Tony, the check's in the mail.
Yeah, I like that. I actually do write steppies in my notes whenever Danielson does the stomps. He's doing the steppies. And Michaela Traub says, "Damn, Ollie, why do you hate Wardlow? You're just jealous of his amazing hair."
I bought my own.
I've been waiting for him to show off his talking skills since I started watching his goodbye speech to his former indie company when he signed with AEW. The man was beloved and will be a star.
Yeah, I mean, I stick by it. I think he's a better wrestler and silent presence than he is a talker.
Zoe Sung, if Sky didn't win the match after all that crap Sammy was doing during the commercial breaks, I would have been livid. I'm happy for Sky. Swerve is really cool. Damn, WWE didn't know what to do with him, really. It's not even that they didn't know what to do with him. They looked at Swerve Strickland and were like, you're not the star of Hit Row.
You're not Top Dollar.
Yeah, Top Dolly is the star of Hit Row. He's the tallest one. Supreme, do you guys remember last week when the graphic came up saying that it would be the winner of Sammy and Sky versus Wardlow for the TNT Championship? And you said, well, no way Sky's winning.
Yeah.
Pepperidge Farm remembers, as do I. Mark said, Scorpio losing the belt could be pretty useful. Create the precedent the belt can be lost at any time. MJF claims the belt off Wardlow immediately and gets Sky and Paige to take out Wardlow in revenge and promises them a shot at his TNT title belt if they succeed.
You could go that way. I don't know if that's the way I would want it to go.
Tails P, while Sammy was laid out after the table spot, Dan Lambert is yelling, there's no time limits in wrestling.
Timeouts.
Timeouts in wrestling. Did Lambert want Sammy to lose by countout? Also, do you think Jade goes 50-0, 99 plus hours till 2K22 finishes updating? Update pretty quick for us, actually, when we got downloaded it here, and I've been very much enjoying it thus far. It's much more arcadey than previous ones, which is much more my speed.
Yes, Jade should go 50-0.
I think what Dan Lambert was looking to do was not to have him win by countouts or like timeout or anything like that. It's the way that Kevin Owens won the NXT title. The guy was Sammy was no longer able to compete, so Kevin won the match and therefore won the belt. In the same way that Sky would have won the belt here, he was unable to compete. On the subject of the Inner Circle, Tempo1337 said, how could no one have seen this coming from Jericho? Has no one read the lyrics to Judas? Well, you have. They're really bad.
Cold like December snow. The coldest of the snow.
I buried that line on a podcast once. It was just after you'd done your music video, and I was like, I've never actually looked at the lyrics, but man, they are dumb. And someone defended it by being like, Jericho didn't write the lyrics. That's worse. It's worse that Jericho isn't writing his own lyrics. Damian Gilliam says, this Dynamite was exhausting, but in a good way. It kind of felt like the end credits of a movie that's setting up a sequel. So many things set in motion. Everyone was elevated, and it felt nice to hear William Weagle speak, and Sammy is frickin' mental. Also, The Batman is one of my favorite movies, and that's not just me being in the honeymoon phase still. It has that rare, lingering effect, like I still feel the emotion deep in the pit of me. Pure brilliance and a masterstroke of filmmaking, 11 out of 10.
Right there with you on The Batman, Damien. Don't I keep talking about it?
You do indeed, yeah. In fact, you're giving your review of it on Cineworld tomorrow, in fact. A deep and in-depth review, is what we might say. Yeah, I love the thing. It felt like the end credits of a movie setting up the next one. It reminds me of a tweet I saw recently that said, like, as film fans and Marvel fans, we have now conditioned ourselves to sit through 20 minutes of credits just so a character can come up and be like, hi, my name's Blort. And we go, yeah!
Blort!
Charles Berg, Jeff dancing to his theme while his brother is getting beaten up could be the funniest thing in wrestling this year. Seeing William Regal get emotional gets me emotional. Sky winning is smart because people think Wardlow is gonna win. He won't because Max. Scott Mitchell, this show is full of exciting ideas, but just me, or did the execution of a lot of angles feel pretty clunky? Maybe they were running more overtime than usual, or didn't have the runtime through everything properly after a huge Revolution weekend.
Yeah, it felt clunky to me too, Scott.
Kevin, I love AEW, but I've been saying for months now, their shows feel way too rushed. Jericho turning on LAX, but Excalibur is talking about Punk's match with MJF. FTR fired Tully, but we need to get to the AHFO stuff. I think letting things breathe is better. I agree on that. Opinionated movies, Dynamite has no right to be this poor this week. Don't understand how you can have such a great roster and still turn out a show this mediocre. Maybe TK needs to hand over the Booker's pencil.
Oh, wow.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I think Tony Khan just needs to focus and maybe get someone else on board to help him with other projects.
That's what I would say as well. Like, I would never have said that this was mediocre. Jester's Design, Champion Luke DAD, the best smile in WrestleTalk. That's a very kind thing to say. And two of my favorite wrestlers will be on Rampage this week, Swerve and Keith. P.S. Luke, start a faction. Jam that jam. I don't need to faction. I've already got my best friend as my tag partner. Bobby G. Hey lads, been a while. Hope all is well. What a great night of wrestling as stories go. Also, so happy to see some things come to an end. HFO being dismantled. Thank goodness. But it hasn't really though, has it? There are still factions without Matt. The Pinnacle, possibly with Tully out, Wardlow leave. But sad, no women builds. I mean, they did build off the Red Velvet and the Layla Hirsch feud, and Thunder Rosa going for the title next week. So I can't see. There's no women's build. Still only one match. Riot DR. Ollie, to explain Sting and Darby, if Two-Face was about to kill the Penguin, Batman would save him.
Yeah, well, yeah, but they weren't going to kill him.
They would beat him up.
Yeah, but I don't think that equates.
Okay. Random side note. At least when AEW break up a faction or team, they seem to replace it with two more. Where is Hybrid 2? Love you 3005 continues to jam that jam.
It's like the bloody Hydra, isn't it? Cut me off to come back.
Ten Rosa. For those of us who don't have to watch WWE, the case for another hour to Rampage grows more and more. Put Rampage on a better hour to spread it all the story content out. Also, Tempest, didn't know you were making music all your life. Bravo, lad. He. I mean, it's very hard to just write down and say, like, put it on a better hour. It's not AEW's choice to put it on at 10 p.m.
No, they're saying give them another hour. So a 2-hour Rampage.
I'll put it on a better hour. Sorry, I do apologize. I thought you were saying put it on a better hour.
I think just limit the stories. I don't think you limit the roster.
But to do that is to say, like, well, then you don't get storylines for a while, and then you have the criticisms of where's this person, where's that person.
Yeah, well, then you have to cycle people out accordingly.
I mean, I very much agree with that. I'm playing devil's advocate. Will Campbell. Hey, guys, pretty solid episode last night, even if it wasn't perfect. I just about jumped through my ceiling when Jeff came out for the save, even if he took a pit stop to dance for a sec. Also, Regal and Eddie's promos were absolutely top tier. Jam that jam. Do you want to continue on with these, and I'll read out the Ollie hates AEW ones.
Falling Downer. A lot happened quickly last night, but I still had a blast. I love that Jericho built a new faction with a name that suits what he always wanted the Inner Circle to be. Regal legit brought a tear to my eye. Cole is captivating, and Wardlow is going to kill Scorpio Sky. Chris Dudley. Why is it every time I see Darby and Sting, I see Jesse and Walter White from Breaking Bad?
I haven't seen a handful of episodes.
I know what you mean, Chris. Matt Carney. Point concerning the alpha male, beta male dynamic, WWE being the established alpha has a healthy slew of betas, casual fans following it. But know this, the second it starts to weaken too much, those casual fans will jump ship in great exodus. I don't really know what you're saying. I don't think it's anything to do with alpha or beta males. I think what you're talking about is alpha and beta fans.
I think it's also worth noting as well that the alpha beta point was disproven by the person who came up with it in the first place. He realized his research was wrong.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you know, like the guy who came up with alpha wolves and things like that. He realized later on, it was like, oh, I read that totally wrong. There's no such thing as an alpha wolf.
What about what about me?
Yeah. So this whole like alpha and beta thing is on a bit of misinformation. Hilarious.
Bunch of chads. Tamruza, Ollie, we really all love you. Don't forget you biased bastard. Hey, if Batista wants a break for like 3 to 4 months, please come and manage Wardlow. Also, Dax tweeting at Bret Hart has made me excited. Really hyped for Double or Nothing already. Athena for Jade.
Well, yeah, that was. I mean, I had Athena down for the Jade Cargill. Sorry, not Jade Cargill. Sorry, Hikaru Shida, just Serena Deeb feud as part of the rookie challenge.
Legit underboss. Dax Harwood mentioned his daughter. Tully Blanchard tried to do practically the same thing and ended up being fired. Also, the Gentleman versus Jurassic Express at the Battle of the Belts 2 in April, please. Be a good time for it.
Battle of the Belts 2, I forgot about that.
Kid Phantom V3. 2 things. I enjoyed the Jeff Pop with the Team Extreme song as a tag team that's good, but as a single, I think one of his TNA songs should be his theme. Second thing, for Wardlow, his phrase should have been, "This is Wardlow's war zone," or something similar.
Don't mind that. Actually, that's pretty good. Also, Kid Phantom version 3, it's nice to see Jeff Hardy sending a message under a pseudonym. I think they should use one of my songs.
Trenton Brown. Since Ollie's become WrestleTalk's Cody, thank you. How long before he gets a knack tattoo? On a serious note, this is my first Dynamite since TK's big swole tweet, and while the show threw a lot of stuff at me, I didn't mind it and kept me engaged. For 80% of it. Matt Carney, WWE is the Roman Empire and AEW are the dispirited Germanic tribes which have come together in their mutual hatred for said empire. Soon the Vikings will take Europe, but remember the saying, what has the empire ever done for us? WWE built the roads. Is that the same person who talked about Alpha stuff?
It is, yeah. And then throwing in some like Monty Python references at the end there.
Sure, Matt. I don't know what overall point you're trying to make. Amro.
He's listened to some podcasts recently.
Yeah. He's read a book. Watch out. Bloody book readers coming in. I've been reading books. Amro. I always post polls of AEW and WWE matches on my Instagram page, and when I entered the WorkHorsemen name, it got cut off at whore, so it read WorkHorsemen. Talis P, do you think that AEW game footage is real, or are we getting worked like the SmackDown Just Bring It intro?
Of the footage I've seen, yeah, I think so.
Isn't it like, but not in-game footage?
Oh, have they got that kind of video?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
We don't know, I'm afraid, Talis.
Here we go. On the subject of Ollie hates AEW. Kevin says, I can't watch live because of work, but please stay respectful in the chat. It's okay to disagree. Just don't be dicks about the fact that Ollie hates AEW confirmed. Scent of a Wookiee. I get that you want to compare AEW to itself, but you have to realize things can be less than God tier and still be awesome. Every single segment furthered an existing storyline or created a new one. Wardlow's first promo ever was in Kingston, but it's still good.
So I've explained my reasons for why I disagree with you. Things can be less than God tier and still be awesome. That's why I loved half of this show.
Mark says, I know the show had a lot of angles, but I really enjoyed that AEW embraces doing these big reset episodes after each pay-per-view. They're what the Raw after Manias used to be. Every segment set up and gave direction for the angles going forward.
I agree with the idea of big resets.
J.S. Wooten, Ollie wilding out about AEW. Who knew that Ollie's hair would be the neck tattoo of AEW's reviews? Ranking an AEW show this low in a world where Raw and SmackDown happen will never not be weird. Luke, thank you for being a ray of sunshine. DAD power for life. Mellow S says, Ollie went from being an anti-WWE to anti-AEW, so I guess Ollie is now being paid by Vince? Jokes aside, thanks for all the work you do. It's much appreciated.
It doesn't say Tony Khan.
The bad one, Jambeard. Ollie, are you okay, mate? Do you need a breather? This is like when you said you hated Hangman because he became champion. The vote of no confidence is how Jeff debuts was something people saw coming weeks ago.
I'm not saying it wasn't predictable. I'm saying it's lame.
Phil Craggs. Hey guys, first time Ultra Chatter here. Thanks for everything you do, except for Ollie's unfettered hatred of everything Bryce Remsburg does, which made me notice him so much more during his match officiates.
I like Bryce Remsburg. He just needs to tone it down a bit with the one.
Okay, I like it. Fran Chile. To be fair, Jeff dancing to his song before saving Matt is one of the most Jeff Hardy things he could have possibly done. I think Ollie needs to review a few episodes of 2.0 so he can cleanse his palate when it comes to reviews. Why don't you like what I like, Ollie? Jeez.
The more I think about it, the more I just do just love Jeff dancing on the way down to the ring.
Shannon Smith, Ollie, it's not the criticism, it's the overreactions for me. Saying Keith is lost in the shuffle, a new ICW buzzword, is false. He just debuted before a pay-per-view, can't be put in a story that ends at the pay-per-view, and come in and be in good spot for that pay-per-view. That's it.
I would wait to bring him in until I've got something really substantial for him to do.
He's feuding with Team Taz.
Okay, well, look, let's see where we are in 6 months.
Yeah, I think that is a much fairer argument to be made. Travis Griffin, loved the show. Like, if you'd have said it about Jay Lethal, completely agree with you. Tony Nese, completely agree with you. I think it is a reaction to say that Keith Lee is lost in the shuffle this early. Travis Griffin, and by the way, if he is, this doesn't mean you're right now.
Kind of well read.
Doesn't mean you're Travis Griffin. Love the show, but I agree with Ollie. I compare this to a great sitcom with a lackluster episode. Still great, but not their best work. Boostfulus Tyrannosaurus. I've been a diehard AEW guy from day one, and I've only become more so over the years. So it hurts me to say I agree with that dirty Tory Ollie about Dynamite last night. It seemed incredibly random, and so much of it was rushed and shoehorned. Dean Barretton, when did Jim Cornette join WrestleTalk? Agree with Ollie, though, the last hour, few crowbar plot moves for me. Wardlow's world sounds like a theme park in the Midlands. Loved seeing William Regal, 4 out of 5.
Oh, this Ollie hates AEW section sure has a lot of support for Ollie.
And lastly here, Nick says, just want to say thank you guys for making me laugh in these dark times. Been a little disappointed in how quiet the wrestling community has been about the war in Ukraine, but I did always appreciate taking a break with WrestleTalk. F Putin, Slava Ukraini. I don't know if I said that right.
Well, yeah, of course. We support Ukraine.
Of course.
We are a wrestling channel. We try to stay out of anything like that. But yes, thank you for joining us here today. It's a long one, but that's what happens when you book a year's worth of TV in an hour.
Oh, so it's now a year's worth.
Yes, someone said I overreacted somewhere. I'm going to double down on the overreactions.
Ollie, WWE has tainted Ollie's minds. I vote for Ollie to review NXT shows.
Where's CM Punk? He's getting lost in the shuffle as well. I haven't seen MJF this episode. Another example of AEW's bloated roster. What's going on with Adam Cole? Look, got some body issues to you? I gave it 3.5 out of 5.
All right, dude, this is what happened when you remember when I was reviewing SmackDown and it was everyone's favorite show because it was much better than Raw. And I'm like, the show's just okay. And everyone had a pop at me for hating SmackDown. This is what it was like.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us here today. Please do go check out our wonderful sponsor, BetterHelp. The link's in the video description below. And subscribe because we have Thunder Rosa on the show tomorrow with Luke. You can live stream in your questions. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
That is correct. So, yeah, subscribe. Tune in tomorrow. I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke Owen, DAD. Jam that jam.
Jam that jam, everyone.